One of those.
I'm listening for that sound. I hear
I'm
that
going to make her
sound.
one of those.
Oh yeah, the little clap. Okay, you're on. Well, I'm going to do my best to be on. As you can tell, my voice is a little strained. I picked up a sore throat Monday night. Haven't decided to get over it yet, so I hope I can be loud enough so you can hear me, Tom.
You brought it
Before the sun comes
Yeah.
up.
I might be doing a little bit of coughing tonight, or clearing my throat, or practicing for the Amco commercials, you know. And we'll see how that goes. But we are in lesson 61, Getting to Know Jesus. It's on pages 93 through 103 in your book. The Bible text is on pages 94 through 96. And the lesson notes are on pages 97 through 101. And if you don't have a pen, I bet Richard can find you one so you can take notes in your book and share this lesson with other people. Jesus feeds over 5,000 people. Or a little is a lot when it's in God's hands. And here's our timeline. We'll see where we are here, and right at the end of, beginning of Jesus' third year of ministry. Several stories and variations of such have gone around the internet of someone who was determined or destitute and down to his or her last penny. They're great stories, you know, and whether they're true or not, only God knows. Some of them have been verified as hoaxes, some of them are still, the jury's still out, and some of them have been actually verified as true. One account is of a mother whose husband had abandoned her. In desperation, she found a job in a restaurant working nights while her children slept at home under the supervision of a babysitter. Comes Christmas, her cart is filled with tires and toys and food, and the people that restaurant that she's just served at, you know, just know about her, hear about her need, and they just love back on her. And she wasn't going to be able to give her kids anything. You know, so if this would be at Christmas time, it's one of those stories that you've probably seen or will see in the next week or so. Another story about a man who went to the store, and while he was in the store, just some overwhelming compulsion said, "Buy a gallon of milk." I don't need milk. Buy a gallon of milk. He bought a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
On the way home, some compulsion said, "Turn right here." But that's home is this way. Turn right here. He turned right here. And he goes around here. And he goes over here. And then it says, "Stop here and take that milk up to that house." But he's obedient. He takes the milk up to the house, and a family that's just crying out their last desperation before the Lord. The baby's crying, no milk. And he takes a gallon of milk, and they just hear that as a prayer. God is still there. God still cares. Again, I don't know if that's a true story. It's a tearjerker. It'll get you. If you read them, these stories are always, whoever wrote them did a pretty good job with it. I hope they're true. It shows that there's still a lot of good in mankind. Well, what is the greatest miracle that you've ever experienced in your life? Maybe we can get to that during the discussion time tonight. Did you recognize God's hand in it? Yeah, when we bought our house, we recognized God's hand in it. We just have to keep reminding ourselves of that once in a while. Have you ever been down to your last food in the house and no money to go to the store and buy more, and somehow food appeared at your door, or somebody gave you some money to buy what you needed? It is interesting to see how other people care and how people share. And one of the things I think that's unique about the United States, and it's our Christian heritage that has made us this way, we are the most benevolent nation in the world. I don't believe we would be there if it was not for our Christian heritage. And to me that makes it more important that we protect that Christian heritage, because it is being slipped away from us. The government wants to take away some of our giving privileges, and we can spend all time on that. We're not going to. We're over in Matthew chapter 14, verses 16 through 21, Mark chapter 6, verses 37 to 44, Luke 9, 13 to 17, and John 6, 5 to last part of verse 5 over to 14. Jesus has just taken the apostles away. They came back. Remember last week we talked, they'd been out, set out 2 by 2 to go evangelize around Samaria and Galilee. Mostly Galilee. They come back and they need a time, a debriefing, a time to relax, get away from the crowds, refresh, share their stories, and just encourage one another for the battle that they've been through and whatever is coming ahead. And what? The time it takes to go maybe 3 or 4 miles on the Sea of Galilee by boat, they get over to Bethsaida, and there's a crowd. A big crowd.
Same crowd.
Same crowd, well, the same crowd and a few others that heard about him, went snipping and traipsing across by land, and they get over there when Jesus and the apostles arrive. So a crowd has followed them and is starting to gather. Jesus sees the crowd and, hey, it's Jesus. What does he do? He sees people that have a need. He sees our physical need. He sees our emotional need. But most of all, he sees our spiritual need. And so he starts ministering to them. He teaches them. He does miracles and heals them. And as the day, this I don't know, probably left in the early morning, got over there before noon, and he's preaching and teaching and talking and sharing with them all afternoon long. And it's getting towards evening. As the day draws to a close, the people are starting to get hungry. But there's no food to feed that many people. Well, what is Jesus going to do about it? Now, every one of you have already heard this story, so I've got to find some way to make it something so when we get to that last question, what have you learned out of this story, the lesson that has or will change your life? Hopefully you'll learn something you didn't already know. Boy, God, I could use some help with that. By the way, this is the only miracle in the entire New Testament that's found in all 4 Gospels. For those of you that are trivia buffs, going to be on a, what's that Bible game show that's on TV now?
Yeah, that's on. Have you watched it?
Yeah,
It's not back on yet, is it?
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
Worthy is the guy's name.
I don't know.
Yeah, Jeff Foxworthy.
Jeff Foxworthy.
Jeff
yeah.
Foxworthy, Bible game show.
Bible-
Well, anyhow, if you get on that game
Bible
show, they ask you that
Bible
question.
challenge.
Bible challenge.
Bible challenge. You get on that game show,
We need
now
to
you know
watch
the
it.
answer
Yeah.
to the only question.
It's a
Okay,
good show.
well, let's start.
Is it? We need to watch it.
Let's start with mankind's needs. A little is a lot when God's hand is in it. Mankind's needs. John chapter 6, the last part of verse 5 and verse 6. He said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" And he asked this only to test him, for he already knew in his mind, had in his mind what he was going to do. Now, we kind of left last week's lesson on, hey, Jesus, these people are getting hungry. Somebody ought to send them off so they can go get some food. And that's where we stopped. So we're picking up in the middle of last week's lesson and going to carry on from there. Well, the people gathered and spent time, the greater portion of the day with Jesus. The sun is getting low in the west and the people are getting hungry. Now, there is a small town nearby. I don't know how nearby, maybe a mile away. They're not far from Bethsaida. I don't know how big a town Bethsaida is. So the apostles suggest that Jesus send the people over to Bethsaida so they can get some food to eat for the people that live there. Now, while we live on this earth, there are certain things that we require in order to sustain life. Air would be one of those, air to breathe, air to breath. I'm going to have a long talk on this computer when we get home. Air to breath,
Just put
water to drink, food to eat. We all kind of just got done enjoying a meal just before Bible study tonight. And even rest. These are all pretty high priorities on that list of things that we kind of need in order to survive. We get a little cranky if we don't have enough rest. Well, God designed us that way for a reason. We have needs that need to be met while we're on this earth. Well, sometimes we are a little unprepared. Matthew chapter 14, verse 16, Mark 6, verses 37 and 38, Luke 9, 13, and John 6, 7. Now, Philip answered Jesus, and 8 months of wages would not buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. Now, I put that down here because it kind of, Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." He said to them, they would take 8 months' wages, man's wages, to buy enough bread for each to have a bite. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat. How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. Go and see. As I said, some of those transmission noises sound, you know. Your car does that, you're in for big bucks at Amco. Well, we are unprepared. When it is suggested that people be given something to eat, the apostles tell Jesus the only food they can find are 5 loaves and 2 fish. And that belonged to a young boy who's going fishing. Now, we're thinking of a loaf of bread, you know, a whole bunch of slices of bread. No, a loaf of bread was probably a little more like what we would call a roll, a biscuit,
Big roll.
something more along that nature. And those fish weren't, they were probably little pan-fried pieces of fish,
Yeah, a lot of perch and brim.
a lot of perch and brim.
Yeah, little panfish.
So, that's a boy's lunch. And even if he's 11, 12, 13, 14 years old and kind of got a pretty healthy appetite, that's still not enough for a dozen people. But we're going to find out a little bit more here in a little bit that there's over 5,000 people here waiting to be fed. That's only enough for a young boy, not a grown man. No one was prepared to feed themselves. These people didn't think about that they were going to be gone all day and day, they need to take a lunch. They just figured out, I see Jesus leaving in the boat, he's going that way. Hey, maybe we can get around to the other side in time to catch up to him and hear him teach some more. He was that popular.
Wow.
They wanted to hear what he had to say. And those who had illnesses, get me over there, maybe he'll heal me. I would imagine that every one of us would think of my throat right now. Jesus, heal me. So they were doing everything they could to get over there. And they were just wanting, this is the pinnacle of success by man's definition. He was sought after, he was liked, the opposition hadn't grown big enough yet to be more than, there's some opposition, but it hadn't grown big enough to be more than.
Did those people even know what divine blood was then? That's what he was.
Not yet.
Oh, no wonder they were following him. They was a magnet.
They're following a man. They're following a man who's got great teachings. They're following a man who scolds the Pharisees when they need to be scolded. They're following a man who has the guts to stand up to the priest and tell them what they're doing is wrong. They're following a man who can heal people of anything and everything imaginable.
And that's probably the real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you.
Hey,
you were going
entitlements.
Yeah.
Give me a healing and I'll follow you everywhere. Give me a free cell phone and I'll follow you. Wait, no, not quite.
See, it's a lot different for us today because we have to abide in our faith.
We have to walk a little more in faith, yes.
We don't seek any of those blessings like that. They do occur, but
So, the people, obviously, though, the people are kind of, they're scooting over there on impulse. They haven't really thought about this. Oh, it's a seminar, and Jesus Christ, Zig Ziglar, right? Jesus is going to be the keynote speaker. In fact, he's going to be the only speaker. And, oh boy, we've got a month to prepare. We're going to be all day over here outside of Bethsaida at the Jesus conference. And no, it didn't quite occur like that. Much more a spur-of-the-moment thing. So they're not prepared to feed themselves. It would not be wise for the crowd to go into town. Even that, I'm sure, I would rather doubt, I haven't done any research on Bethsaida, but probably wasn't big enough to feed over 5,000 people. A smaller village, maybe you could have handled a couple of hundred, but
We only had a
5,000.
Wendy's and a Juicy Patty. So.
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
about
You might
all-
get
that's
one
all I
loaf
had.
and one half of a piece of fish.
Like Mulberry, when they opened up the first McDonald's over Mulberry, they thought they were a big city now.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I've known some other towns that were that way.
Influence.
Well, as much as they try, as much as you and I try to think of everything, and I know we do, how much of this do we need? Where are we going to go? What do we need when we get there? We often find out that there is something that our minds could not foresee or plan for. Life is always full of surprises. Oh, I forgot that I didn't pack the cord to my razor. Now I'm running out of battery and I can't recharge it. Oh, I didn't realize that cell phones aren't allowed here. Now I got a cell phone that's going to make me throw it away. Or no, my knife can't go with me on the airplane.
Right, I went through
yeah.
that. I had to throw away.
Throw away a perfectly good knife or a perfectly good bottle of water.
Yeah.
We went to an event one time.
Honestly.
It's been opened. You cannot take it in there. It's water.
Don't give
You
me
cannot take it in there.
We'll
I
sell you
paid
another
a
bottle.
whole
when you get a new
79
drink
cents
style.
for that water.
It's
Make
wrong.
the money.
Three times it.
Well, often we try to think of everything, but we sometimes find out that plans don't go the way we plan. We're just going to church, it's no big deal. Wait a minute, that car's running a stop sign. Life is full of surprises. Sylvia thought she knew what she got when she was marrying me. She'll tell you all about it. Life is full of surprises.
See what
Oh,
you
cool.
see is how
Hey, let
much
me
you
say
get.
something.
And vice versa.
I heard a Christian guy teaching the other day. It was on Robinson's show or something, and he says married couples are opposites, and it's all. Can man just that opposites, and you're complementary.
Oftentimes,
Wow, what
So
a
why
life!
God-
And if we would think about we need each other, we'd get along a lot better
Why
than
should
if we
we?
think about I gotta make you like
Why
me.
would we marry somebody who's just like us?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do we
Well,
need
that's
that
how that
person
sounds like
for?
God. Yeah,
Wasn't
it was so awesome to hear him teach that.
oh, what's Billy Graham's wife's name?
Ruth.
Ruth Graham.
Yeah.
I think
Graham
she said if
Bell.
he were like me, one of us wasn't necessary.
Right.
He already knew that, or she did.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that makes weddings so memorable and entertaining. Have you ever gone to a wedding and everything went perfect and there was no, that the groom fainted or no hiccups, you don't know what was going on behind the scenes if
Yeah,
there
right.
was.
Well, weddings do come
It
out.
wouldn't be complete if there wasn't something that, wait a minute, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
The flower girl starts crying in the middle and runs all the way back instead of going down to the front. Or the ring boy, gets squirmy and says, I gotta go to the back, right in the
Yeah,
middle of the
right,
wedding
yeah.
ceremony.
Yeah.
There's always something.
No, not true.
Or you've seen the ones where the bride fainted or the groom fainted, those are always entertaining. Or they go to throw the bouquet and they fall all over themselves or stuff like that. But then that's the thing that kind of makes it entertaining. It makes it memorable. You can think back of your own events in your lives. Birthday parties, weddings, Christmas.
Give
one
us,
thing or
give us
another.
a lot of remember wins.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, sometimes something always goes different than the way it was supposed to. We're going to start a new church in North Lakeland. And we're going to buy this building, we're going to do a little bit of modifying on it, and we're going to be in there in just a couple of months, and we're going to be
2 years later. Life happens while you're making other plans.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's good.
Life is what happens to your plans, that's right. That was over a year ago, that couple of months, and we're still a month away. Getting closer, though, much closer.
So we gotta look over our shoulder though and start counting the blessings. Why was the 1 year delay?
Well,
And the one reason the cabinets are now donated free, whereas a year ago they weren't.
Yeah.
And our neighbor came over and brought, our neighbor came over
Went up in price.
and brought 4 poinsettias as a peace offering, one that had given us a lot of hard time and grief. Brought 4 poinsettias as a
so
grief
we're making
offering.
friends. So, yeah, that would be
We
the
thought that
big
never
event.
happened.
Winning our neighbors to Christ and adding them to the church. So, but we can spend the rest of the night talking about things that were, supposed to go this way, but this happened. That spoiled our party. God has a sense of humor. If you don't think he has a sense of humor, go home and look in the mirror.
Just look around the room.
And we need God to guide us and take care of us.
Speak for yourself.
Ugly and ugly.
Is that first or second George talking?
The good, the bad, the ugly, and the funny are from.
He's not here. Yeah.
All right. Well, so how has God provided, protected, or helped you through some difficulty in your life? And again, we can spend the rest of the night telling, well, God helped me here, God protected us there. Goodness gracious, this could have been a whole lot worse. There's an airplane upside down in the trees
On a rock.
on a rock.
That was me.
Where? I
That's how
can't.
God has protected you.
There's nothing there.
Well,
He
we
drew.
was,
just gotta get
here's
closer.
the rock, here's the airplane upside
Oh.
down. That's how we crashed in Oklahoma.
Can you show the other?
And God
Upside
protected you and you're still here
Sure
and giving
did.
us trouble. I mean, holding you accountable.
Giving us trouble.
Well, here's the next thing, and dedicate what you have to God. Matthew chapter 14, verses 17 through 18, Mark 6:38, Luke 9:14, and John 6, verses 8 and 9. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here is a boy, we have only 5 small barley loaves, and 2
Fish.
small fish. John happens to pick up on the small part. The apostles, with the boy's permission, by the way, let's think about this. I'm giving up my lunch to feed all those people? You've got to be kidding.
He never argued.
Okay,
Yeah.
there is no word whatsoever. The boy argued or even questioned or even objected.
No.
Amazing.
It's kind of
One
like,
of the
okay.
apostles probably said, watch this.
Yeah, right. And he let him have it right there. He dropped his lunch.
George,
Watch this.
I wish that were true, but the apostles didn't have a clue yet. They don't have a clue.
That's true. You're still in the dark.
Right.
That's right.
I'm glad you added that.
So they bring the 5 loaves and the 2 fish to Jesus. Before anyone takes a bite, Jesus has the people sit in groups of 50. Now, 5,000 men, groups of 50, that would be about 100 groups. Did I do my math right?
I think so.
About 100 groups sitting around there, and 5 loaves and 2
However,
fish.
there's conjecture, that was the men. That didn't count the
That
family.
just the men.
That's
That
right.
doesn't count the women and children. Now, assume this, that maybe not all the men brought their wives and families. So maybe a lot of the families were at home. But some of them, most likely, did.
Here, let me add this. Something I learned the last few years through good teachers is that the word men in the good book means both genders. So who
Well, it
knows what
depends
this
on the
is?
context of the sentence.
I really
But
got me
the
confused.
Jewish way of
I never knew
counting,
this before.
the Jewish way of counting, when they counted the people in a crowd, they only counted the men.
Not the men, right.
Women didn't count
Women
yet.
didn't count.
Yeah.
Once
They
you
were no
know
count.
You know, Glenn, in Jamaica, when they count church attendance,
Uh,
they count the men and the women, but don't count the kids,
Really?
which is weird.
Yeah.
yeah, here we
If
count the
mother's
kids
pregnant,
whether
we
they're in
count her
Bible
twice if
study
she's
or
got
not.
twins. 3 times we got twins.
Can you imagine that the area probably took up about an acre where they were?
An
That many
acre?
people.
We're going to get to a picture of it here in just a
It'd be
minute.
more than an acre.
Yeah,
I think.
it might take
That'd be
about
a
an
traffic
acre.
jam.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty cozy in an acre.
yeah, John gives the extra detail that the other ones don't. That says, Simon Peter says, here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 fishes.
Yeah.
They may have said, Jesus has need of your lunch. Would you share your lunch with Jesus or give it to Jesus?
And the
And so the
typical
boy
Jewish
brings it,
mindset,
and then they say, look, this is this little boy, and that's all he's got. Yeah.
there was a general mindset to my amongst the Jewish people that basically what's mine is ours. And they were very compassionate in helping one another and meeting one another's needs. So yeah, his parents have modeled for him. And so when they said, hey, can we have your lunch for all these people? He said, yeah. I'm just a kid though, I don't know anything.
There you go.
But that's what my parents have taught me. That's what they modeled. And so they let Jesus have it. Evidently, there is no indication whatsoever of any objection from the young boy. He's
That's right.
totally okay with it. Would you be okay giving up your lunch for 5,000 people scattered over the side of a hill? When you wanted to go another mile or so down the hill and go fishing?
I wouldn't think that my lunch was gonna feed 5,000.
Exactly.
Yeah, but just try to eat that lunch in front of 5,000 hungry people.
Yeah.
Oh,
See
I
how
don't
many
have to go
stares
there.
down their noses you
Yeah.
It
get.
would be like, you gotta be kidding.
So,
Yeah,
You definitely know if whatever was running it was thinking different anyway.
I got a lunch, the rest of you suffer.
Jesus has the people sit down in groups of 50. Now, he takes the food and he gives thanks to God before he distributes it.
Then the angels start moving.
Now, some of you may not be in the habit of praying for your meals. I was brought up in a home where we said prayer before every meal.
Amen.
I try to model that in my home. And in fact, a lot of times when we're over at somebody else's house, if they start to eat without praying, Sylvia will do it more than I. Hey, we got to pray for this food.
That's cool, isn't it?
But it's important. Think about it. You would not have that beef steak if God didn't make a cow. You wouldn't have those potatoes and whatever else you have with that big old hunky meal if God didn't make those little seeds grow. I've got 3 potato sprouts about that high above the ground right now in my backyard.
Idaho potatoes or Florida
Yeah,
potatoes?
Idaho. Well, they're going to be Florida potatoes now. So.
Start out, I know.
It'll be a couple, 2, 3, 4 months before they're ready. Maybe 6 months. I don't know. I
I didn't know you were an Irish potato farmer, man.
But,
What other new talents do you have?
I just pulled a few little tomatoes off our tomato vine today.
He's going into the 5,000 next week.
But you know, it's a miracle what God has done.
Yeah.
And then you have the ability to go to the store and think that they make it in the back room of the store. How many kids think that's where milk and beef and cheese and all that come from?
Yeah.
Oh, they make it back there. The big guy, you know.
One lady thought whenever they got bacon, they just cut a side off the pig and he grew it all back again.
Okay.
Like a
Like you
fruit
sheared a
tree, huh?
sheep. Like you sheared a sheep, you grow it
That's
all back.
everlasting.
You're gonna pick some
You cut the
bacon.
bacon off the pig and it grows some
Yeah,
more.
he'll grow it back. We'll just cut another side off of him a little later. The things we know when we don't know what we know.
How does some
Well,
dumb
whether
I
it's
think that was smart.
after Jesus has given thanks for the food, he gives it to the apostles and says, here, distribute this through those people. Now, I don't know. We weren't there. We could speculate all we want, whether it grew while Jesus was praying for it, or when the apostles started passing it out, somehow it just,
Yeah.
They break off a piece and
they break off a piece and it grow right back, like a lizard's
Yeah, it
tail.
never runs out.
Only a lot faster. But somewhere,
Oh.
somehow,
Oh,
God
geez.
did something that totally defies the laws of nature.
Hey, if that happened to us right here, we'd be amazed and perplexed too right in front
We'd
of
be
our face.
amazed. If Cassandra said next week, I'm sorry kids, the stove broke down and all I've got, you guys didn't put enough money in to pay for the groceries, all we've got is 1 bean for 1 person.
Good God.
You better pray.
And we put that bean on our plate and it's a whole big old dinner, we can't eat it all. We'd say, wow, God,
Yeah.
you showed up.
Yeah, what's the matter with me?
We would be amazed. I think we'd probably be shocked to
Oh, boy. There'd be a
can I
faint,
speak?
there'd be a fainting row, I think.
A fainting row, yes.
I'll tell you, McDonald's and those places would like to get the recipe.
Yeah, take 1 bean, give it to the people, charge them $5, and they go away thinking like they got the best end of the deal.
Chick-fil-A's first line, I think.
Chick-fil-A do better than McDonald's,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they're Christian.
They're closed on Sunday. Why did the apostles distribute the food? Now, whether we have a lot or a little, we should always thank God because we could have even less.
Oh, my Lord.
Think about how many families right now, tonight, didn't get half the meal that you got to enjoy tonight.
Oh, Lord. That's horrible.
I am constantly reminded with the people that I connect with and talk to on Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth around the world that are in very poor parts of their countries, ministering, preaching the gospel. I got an email today from a minister, and I can't tell you what country it's from, Africa or India. I want to say somewhere in Africa, I'm not sure, I'd have to look it up, thanking me. The Getting to Know Jesus CD arrived in the mail, and he was so thrilled
Awesome.
to get this Bible study that you guys are getting to enjoy given to him. He said, I'm in a very poor church, we're in a slum area, and these people, they're poor. They can't afford this. Thank you for this rich gift. He is sincerely appreciative. I've gotten several of those. We should always thank God for what we've got, because it could be less. And what we currently have could easily be taken away from us as fast as an airplane can take down a skyscraper.
Yeah.
One impact and a couple hours later, and that skyscraper was a pile of cement and steel laying on the ground with a bunch of dead people inside it. So how much good
Saw it happen.
You're sitting in your home one minute, a tornado comes sweeping through town, and your house and about half the houses on that southern part of town are nothing but toothpicks laying on the ground. It doesn't take long. That hurricane comes through and drops a boat on top of your house, or a fire comes through and down the hill, and the firemen can't protect your house, and you've got ashes. What we have can easily be taken away from us. Zig Ziglar tells about a guy who had several $1 million. Thought he was doing just fine.
That's Job, isn't it?
Had a bad turn of events, and he lost every bit of it. Died of pauper. Richard?
Down in Jamaica, the storm came through, a hurricane, and these folks had a piece of tin leaning up, or some tin for an outdoor kitchen, kind of a lean-to kitchen with a couple pieces of corrugated, they call it steel. And the hurricane come up and blew the old rusted holy tin out of the county, but in come two brand new pieces come blowing right in, brand new. So the old kitchen got replaced with brand new that blew in from some other neighbor, I don't know how many miles down the road.
Some other neighbor lost the roof and they got it.
God provided her kitchen.
It says love thy neighbor as thyself.
Well, hopefully that neighbor could afford to lose his roof and buy himself another one because it went down the street.
That don't count for grandchildren though. If they blow in from the neighbors, you gotta take them back.
The neighbor
Can't
kids,
keep that cute little grandbaby.
they take off for income tax.
That's what you put your
Now the
name
bottom
on
line, the bottom line is to commit your life and your talents and your possessions to God and His glory, and you will be blessed. Whatever you do, whatever reason you haven't, God, can I use this for your glory? I've told you before about the little CB radio. I was a Bible college student in Joplin, Missouri, and CB radios were the rage right then, and I wanted a CB radio.
Very
But
good.
it was a little bit expensive for a Bible college student with a wife and a kid and
You got that right.
all that sort of thing. So, but somehow we managed to splurge. I got a CB radio.
Did you get a
I
radar
decided-
detector to go with it?
Huh?
Did you get a radar detector to go with it?
I didn't use a radar detector.
Smart man.
I usually just got caught until I learned to slow down. Actually, I usually had somebody else in front of me, so I was in the rocking chair. I like the rocking chair. But I had that radio. I was going to use that radio to glorify God. And God did use me more than once
Amazing.
to witness for Him to people, help put an alcoholic and his nagging wife back together and restore their marriage because I met him on that CB radio. So use whatever you've got. God, how can I use my house? How can I use my car? How can I use my hobby? Whatever it is that I love to do, how can I use it to glorify you? That would be your challenge. Now, oh, here we go. Here's our little seaside.
Yeah,
Again, this is over by Bethsaida. Last week we were looking over here just a little further west. This is looking a little more south. Tiberias is probably way down over here somewhere.
Capernaum or.
But this would have been the view that people would have had as they were listening to Jesus speak to them on that hillside. And probably he's probably down looking up. I don't know, but that's what they would have had while they were eating.
So those big hills, is that the area where Jesus spent most of his life in that area
Yes,
of the lake?
right over here is Galilee.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Further south would be Samaria. Further south of Samaria is Jerusalem. Capernaum is off the map over here to the right. So yeah, this would have been the area
So
where
he was
Jesus.
kind of a ridge runner. Some people call him ridge runners. Went around a lot of hills.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they call
you
Lake
can
Wales
run
the Ridge.
Huh?
Lake Wales is called the Ridge.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Amen.
So yeah. Okay, well God
Action
can
plays
provide our needs. Matthew 14 verses 19 to 21. Mark 6 verses 39 to 44. Luke 9 verses 15 to 17. And John 6 verses 10 to 14. There's a long section here, but it just kind of fits together. We go and buy food for all this crowd, but how far will it go among so many? Jesus answered, bring them here to me, he said. Jesus directed his disciples to have them sit down in groups of 50 each. The disciples did so. There was plenty of grass in that place, and everybody sat down. They didn't worry about chiggers, they didn't worry about mosquitoes, they didn't worry about poison ivy and other things. They just sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, about 5,000 of them. And you'll notice that Matthew, Mark, and Luke will reference that a little bit later on. As much as they wanted, the 5,000, as much as they wanted, they did the same with the fish, and they all had enough to eat. He said to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted. How many of us throw food into the garbage can that we could just put in the refrigerator and nuke the next day and have it for leftovers? Some people don't like leftovers.
Look at
There'd be
me.
a lot of people in this world that would like to
I
have your
don't throw
leftovers.
food away.
Do what?
I know.
Look at me, I don't throw food away.
I don't throw food away either.
Yeah.
I eat it all.
The disciples picked up and filled 12 baskets with the broken pieces that were left over of the bread and of the fish. 2 little fish. And they've got more fish in those baskets after they fed the 5,000 than they had when they started. And a whole lot more bread than they had when they started. The number who ate, that were left over, the number of those who had eaten was about 5,000 men. Luke points out that it was 5,000 men. Matthew says 5,000 men besides women and children. So we know that there were some women and some children. Now, some families were sizable. There could easily have been 10,000 people, even though some of the guys didn't bring their wives and kids. There could easily have been 10,000 people there. We won't know till we get to heaven. But look at the size of that crowd. After the people saw the miraculous sign that Jesus did, they began to say, surely this is the prophet who is coming to the world.
You know, when you think about it, that's kind of a small feat, because God fed all of the Israelis for 40 years out in the desert.
Yeah, there's a million
Yeah, he did.
of those. Yeah.
And they didn't even have 5 loaves and 2 fish to
No.
start with.
No.
God fed them for
Now,
40
what
years.
is it stuff?
Pardon?
Send down
What
manna
is
from
it
heaven
stuff? That's what
every
manna
day.
is.
Yeah.
What is it?
Manna.
He put the manna there, and then they gave them the quail, and they
Manna,
complained about
water
both.
from the rock.
Tastes like honey and coriander seeds, with.
And sometimes we complain about our abundance until we realize, the guy said, I had no shoes and I felt sorry for myself until I met a man who had no feet. Jim?
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, a moment ago you said that possibly 10,000 people were on the hillside. Jesus did not have a PA system.
Yeah, you got it.
That's right, and he was well heard from the front to the back.
Yeah.
I had a group of people, a large group of people, and I took them to a place on the Sea of Galilee with a hillside. And I had them sit down on the grass, and there were a lot of big stones there they could sit on. And I took my Bible and read the Sermon on the Mount. We could hear people talking in normal voice, maybe 300 or 400 yards away.
Wow.
Yeah.
The acoustics were perfect.
Wow.
Didn't need a PA system. And that's how Jesus could teach these people, because he knew where to take them and where the acoustics were right for
Wow.
them to hear.
Richard's been talking in our Sunday school classes about some of the ruins back there in the cities that were mentioned in the book of Revelation. And you notice several big amphitheaters, and some of those amphitheaters would seat quite a large crowd, and yet they could speak to the crowd. No PA, no electronics, none of the stuff that we think.
Just like a megaphone, though, just the sound megaphones from the bottom
It just, yeah, something, sound, all the sound just directed itself up, and people could get a direct shot and hear. Well, God could provide for our needs. Somewhere after Jesus' prayer, as the apostles are passing out food, 5 loaves becomes enough to feed 5,000 men, plus any women and children that were attending. Women and boys under age 11 were not counted, so you had to be 12 years old to be counted with the men. They had so much food that 12 baskets of leftovers are collected after everyone has eaten. They had more than enough food when God provided. That's the amazing thing. If God's in it, you'll have what you need.
I would imagine that was distributed stuff, because there's no refrigeration or place to keep it where it wouldn't go bad. even if they.
What did they do with that food that was left over? Did they pass it out to the people, say, here, take some home with you?
I would imagine, that's my guess.
That'd be my guess too. Here, take some home with you. But they counted it back in just to validate
Yeah.
the size
Yeah.
of the miracle.
And the fish got fried just by speaking it, I suppose.
Fish was probably cooked before
Jesus
the boy
don't
left
have no
home
problem
because
with
Oh, yeah.
Mommy would have given him cooked fish, unless he was eating
that.
sushi.
Oh, I hear you. The setup that way. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Mama cooked the fish before he left home, so he had cooked fish and bread already baked.
So when you multiply it, it's more cooked fish.
More cooked fish.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was wisdom, brother. Thanks for helping me
We
out.
should have had, Cassandra, we should have had fish for dinner tonight.
Yeah,
That would have really driven it, been interesting.
I could do that sometime. I hadn't thought
Of
about
course,
that.
we had enough pork loin, so I guess we were fine. And our Jewish friends probably are glad they didn't come tonight.
Right.
They don't want to eat
Expect a
pork.
lot from Pastor Richard.
Oh, hey, hey.
Some of us,
Oh, wow.
some of us don't realize
wow.
how much God has given to us. Maybe you do realize it, but sometimes you forget. Sometimes we're so used to what we're so used to. We've got a house with insulation and air conditioning, electric lights, and running water and indoor bathrooms. There are some people, their house is 4 walls with a piece of tin over the roof, and that's just held on by a few
Cement blocks holding them down.
maybe a few
Yeah.
cement blocks.
I've been there.
And that's their house. Smaller than this room that we're meeting in.
Yeah.
That's their house.
No floor.
And there's a lot of people in the
Third
world
Third
today
floor. I've been in.
that are still living. That's all they've got. Some people are living in a piece of cardboard they found laying around
You
somewhere.
think that's just Jamaica? I've been in places in Oklahoma like that. Houses where people live like
Yeah.
that.
Well, you hit the homeless in the big cities, and some of them are sleeping in a cardboard box.
I often think about people like that, and I think the blessing that many of them have is that they don't know any different. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
easier for them because they're brought into that world that way,
Yeah, no
as
income
opposed
tax,
to
no
one of
utility
us
bills.
being put into a situation.
Oh,
like
yeah, right.
One of the ministers that Richard and I have breakfast with every Monday was just down in the Dominican Republic and talked about the kids there have so little, but their personality, their spirit, they were so full of joy. They were so happy.
Amazing.
They didn't realize that there were Xbox and Transformers and all these games and toys and Barbie dolls and all this other stuff that our kids, oh, I gotta have this or I won't be happy.
Yeah, we could
Amazing.
give them all those things and make them miserable.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it was
Well
observed
said.
in a culture, and I can't give you the exact place because the illustration was too long ago. Paul Harvey shared it. Before civilization, electronics, electricity, televisions came into this culture, the people were happy. They got along with one another, they worked together, they took care of one another, they provided for what they needed, and they were happy. All of a sudden televisions come in, and now they're fat and lazy, sitting at home watching TV all the time. They don't know their neighbors, and why go out and work? I want to go home and see this show.
Yeah.
And their happiness eroded. How much of our happiness is eroded because of our technology? And I'm one of those, hey, look at this, I've got a laptop computer. And I was frustrated until we justified the expense of getting this laptop computer. But it's been a very handy tool for me to teach the Getting to Know Jesus series. So, it's a tool to serve the Lord.
You know, like he was saying,
But,
do harm more than good. Because the prince of the power of the air is in a lot of that stuff. And all these young people know the difference. That's dangerous.
well, if they don't know God, so much of this stuff can be used for evil instead of for good.
Sure.
That's kind of the bottom line to that. We are so used to our gadgets and conveniences and luxuries that we would not know how to provide for ourselves if they were taken away. They've talked about an E-bomb. An E-bomb is some sort of a bomb that would release a magnetic pulse that would basically neutralize all electronics. This computer would be nothing but good for
Toast.
but a boat anchor then. Your watch would stop. Your refrigerator, your washing machine, they've got electronics in them. They wouldn't
Smart
work.
meters would be.
Smart meters would be. cut off real fast.
Oh, my rate went way down last week.
The power plant companies would be affected and your electricity would go off. What would you do if you had to live by candlelight?
Living without electricity is easy. Try living without water.
Yeah.
And you can't get water because the electric pumps
Yeah,
to
that's
pump
a tough
that
one.
water are down because the electricity is down. You've got to go to the lake, find the water, hope the alligators aren't in it, and other little parasites that you don't want in your body.
Right.
Find some way to sterilize it and cook it and then drink it. And use it for what you, yeah.
Well,
We don't
where you live,
realize-
You can't even go to the bathroom if you don't have electric.
Yeah.
Some places
So
you
you bucket
can.
water out of your front ditch is what we got through the hurricanes.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
We have so much that we do take for granted. And we better be thanking God for it every day because for the blink of an eye, the blink of an eye,
That's right.
it can be taken away from us.
Some people one paycheck around away from.
I'm entitled. I'm entitled to have electricity and all these toys and all these things, and you can pay for it. Not. Well, God will never take anything away from us without providing something better to meet our needs versus our wants. Notice the key word there between needs and wants. I want this. And I still have a list of wants about that long. Well, maybe not quite that long, just about that long. But I have done without them this far. I might live a little longer and still do without them if I don't get them. If I get them, hopefully I'll have enough sense to use them for God's glory. But sometimes we might be wise to learn to be contented with what we have instead of fussing so much about what we think we want. We might get what we want and just be happy with it. And I guarantee you, if you're not happy with what you have, you wouldn't be happy with what you got, even if you got what you thought you wanted. I've been down that road enough to know how our human nature is.
Insatiable.
Paul said, I've been rich, I've been poor. I've learned to be content with whatever situation I am in. And we need to work on that. Okay. Do you trust Him? Do you really, really trust God to provide for your needs? Now, maybe in His kindness and generosity, He might even provide for some of your wants. But the wants are peripheral. The needs are necessary. What did we say we needed? Air, food, water, rest, maybe a little shelter from the cold or from the heat. But we don't need air conditioning as much as we like to think we do. Or heaters. Well, maybe, I don't know. Well, the conclusion is this. How do you follow up an event as amazing as taking 5 loaves, 2 fish, and feeding 5,000 plus people?
Feed
Go
4,000
down
next
across.
time.
Yeah.
Go down across. That would be pretty amazing. And then raise yourself back to life. Yeah. But we're not there yet. In fact, just a little sidebar here. Maybe a kind of partly premature, but these people have no clue of the cross. These people have no clue of Jesus dying on the cross for their sins.
Yeah, that's true.
At most, they think He might deliver them from Roman oppression.
And He's a
That's
prophet.
as far as their mind can go. We'll be talking about that
You
more.
know, there's a lot of the
I
religious stuff
think
there
next
too
week.
that He was a prophet, and they don't go too much further than that.
They don't
They
know.
don't go into the resurrection and
They
redemption.
don't know. We'll talk about that some more. Next week, Jesus is going to take a walk on the water. Woo! See what happens and how the people respond to that. And we're going to break for our discussion questions. They're over on page 102. Sylvia?
Oh, yes. Yes, just one moment.
Is there another sound or not?
Say, who's it?
You can follow us and stay in touch with what is happening with the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry on Plaxo, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and watch our video clips on YouTube and GodTube. Getting to Know Jesus is sponsored by New Hope Gospel Ministries. If you'd like to follow along with us and start your Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study group, or just pray for us or support our ministry, you can go to www.gettingtoknowjesus.org and find all the information that we have available for you. If you look at the lower right hand corner, there's a button where you can make a safe and secure donation to the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry. Or you can go to the order page and order your Getting to Know Jesus books for your Bible study group. Thank you for stopping by, and keep us in your prayers and let us know how we can pray for you.